podcast.
Hi.
We just got a good introduction by Pac. So many tears. This is the second episode where we have pretty much interrupted the planned
flow.
Flow of things because we've pre-recorded episodes, and it's been interrupted twice already because of these tragic murders. Yeah, these tragic murders happening. That's been spiking outrage. It's been spiking lament, grief, anger, and so obviously, with this being added to a list of a bunch of others that have happened over the years in the midst of a, I guess, cultural setting that doesn't make it very new. We're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about, I guess, see, this is different. You know what I mean?
How so? What do you mean?
There's just, I think it's just the experience. We'll get to that. But there's something inherent about a police officer's role that encompasses protection, safety, at the very least, de-escalation.
Yeah.
Also protection of rights. And it's you just see violation of those things rampantly today.
Yeah.
And today's loosely used. I'm talking about just over the course of a couple decades. In my own experience with it, you know, it makes me genuinely sick to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's take a deep breath.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, what we've been talking about through our sermon series of the Beatitudes in Matthew, and the kind of person that you have to want to be a police officer. It's kind of not related to the Beatitudes at all, but it just makes me think about like heart posture a lot as a in a role like an officer.
You talking today or just in general? You speaking of
in general
the role of a police officer, or the way it's been carried out?
No, the role of a police officer. The kind of person that you have to be. Just a courageous, selfless person that cares for its city or town so much that they'll put their life on the line to protect it.
Yeah, man.
Then the kind of person you have to be to want a job like that. And they don't get paid a lot.
No.
They don't get paid a ton of money. And I have a lot of police officer friends that I graduated high school with. And I know that's why they became police officers. They grew up in the hood. They saw the police officers in those hoods. And they were like, man, I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for becoming an officer, but something has to change.
Something's got to change.
And so like the kind of heart you have to have for people. It kind of reminds me of the kind of heart you have to be a doctor, the kind of heart you have to be a teacher. And all those roles are important in society. Policing is by far more dangerous, I would say.
Teaching can be just as dangerous.
Yeah, teaching can be dangerous, but police officers know what they're getting into when they sign up, and that can be. It takes a lot of courage to leave your family every day, not knowing if you'll be home. It's like going into the military being deployed every day, and so it hurts so much to see what it's turned into.
Yeah.
And how often that badge is taken for granted.
We can get to turned into, possibly, right?
Well, yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because you can dig into the crates of history
Right. Yeah.
Law enforcement and government has always been something that a black person needs to give the side eye to.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm grateful for people who they don't know what to do or say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the way that they respond to that is by like, reaching out and being like, man, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. And I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that. However, there are some, I think I mentioned on, I forget what episode, was this last episode? I don't know. No. I don't know when it was, but I was talking about how because of like your experiences and your heritage, that can shape your worldview and your outlook on government and authority, and you can have a certain way that you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And people just don't respect that. They can't sympathize or empathize with one another regarding that. We have a heritage that involves parents raising their children, making sure that they learn certain rules around authority.
Right.
And it's not because it makes you a good person to follow the authority. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's so that you don't get killed by the authority.
Keeps you alive.
Yeah. That's literally the case. Mm-hmm. You learn the rules of how to behave around authority so that you don't get killed by them.
Yeah, so our parents never explicitly said that. They never sat us down and said, look now, you respect your adults and you mind your business. You don't talk back because you might die. Like they never told us that. But they definitely experienced it. And so therefore, in their experiences, felt it necessary to teach us it.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about all the times where I look at other cultures like, oh, you let that baby talk to him like that? Maybe it's because they have never had to
have to have
it's
a conversation
not a life
about
and death.
authority-subject relationship.
Authority isn't life and death from some other cultures.
Yeah.
You can be disrespectful in other cultures and not worry about getting killed for it.
Yeah. Going back to Ahmaud Arbery, and before he was tragically murdered, somebody sent me a friend of ours. Joy, Joy. Mm-hmm. No, I sent it to her. Never mind. Somebody else sent it to me. Someone else sent it to me. It's a video of him and having an interaction with the police.
He was just like sitting in his car, and
he was just sitting in his car. And so, a lot of us, might not know, but there's another conversation that needs to happen. It's not just white and black. It's also government worker and citizen that we got to have a conversation about. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of citizens that don't recognize their power when it comes to these servants. Is what they are. Right. I'm not even trying to be derogatory. Right. That's their role.
And if you are a police officer,
servant role,
and you hear this and you're saying, I don't like the way you say servants.
Yeah.
Rethink your job.
Yeah.
Because that is the heart posture I'm talking about. That's it's a humble job that you have.
Very humble.
It's necessary, but it is a job of humility, courage, and tact. All of those things.
Yeah, you gotta have. So let me get. We gonna go there.
Finish what you were saying.
Yeah. So one thing that our father taught us was the ability to articulate our rights and what we are free to do. And here's the kicker: we're free to do them not because a human told us we could.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know that. They don't know that. There would be plenty of times that I'd get pulled over. We'll get into stories with cops, but I'm just talking about the instances. What Baltimore police are used to is they're used to being able to pull somebody over, and they're so scared of the cop because they probably had, this is before weed was decriminalized. Is it decriminalized in Baltimore? It doesn't matter. I mean, they smoking it anyway.
It don't matter.
Yeah. But this is before it's decriminalized, so maybe they had like an ounce in them. Some dudes in Baltimore probably have more than weed. 8 balls. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Somebody might have pistols on them. It doesn't matter. And so their number one job is to make sure they just get away from this situation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they don't know their rights. Now, this is what we've experienced, and we'll share some personal stories, some personal testimonies of, with the Shield. But if I had to give an honest assessment about having known my rights and being able to articulate them, it pisses cops off.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
Why on earth would a cop not be in support of you being a law-abiding citizen and free?
Right.
What type of person does that need to be? And real quick, I'm going to use the word cop generally. You know, I've come a long place. The Lord has brought me a long way. I do not believe that all police officers fit in this umbrella that we're going to discuss, and the umbrella that we've witnessed on camera far too often. As a matter of fact, there are some there, and I continually pray for them because they've entered into a realm where they're outnumbered.
Yeah, they're the Christian in the cop world. You know, they're in foreign territory,
so
it takes a lot more courage to stand up against a fellow police officer.
Yeah, because you're going against the blue fraternal order.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they don't like that. What are some things that's happening now as a result? You know, people, I guess what's been happening. I actually don't watch mainstream news, so I don't really know.
You think I do?
No, I'm just saying. I don't know. Do you know?
What's happening now? I mean, people are rioting.
Oh yeah,
like that? You mean like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know what? This is what I wanted to talk about. This is what I wanted to bring up. Because I was talking about perspectives and worldviews and the way that you interact with government servants. There are people who are on the side of screaming for justice right now. And they don't realize that they're also on the side of stripping away the rights to make sure that someone like a George Floyd has to get on the ground when that cop tells them to.
Yeah.
They don't realize that.
Yeah.
They don't realize that our inherent ability to live is incrementally given away, right after right, vote after vote, as a response to a desire for safety.
Right. And so when I was just talking to Holly about this yesterday, you know, when somebody comes up to me and they say, why do you need this gun, this specific gun? Why do you need to have this many guns? Why do you think you need to own guns? We're watching why.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
would think that I need to have these guns. That may not be true in your world.
And that's perfectly fine.
I wouldn't force you to get one if you don't want one.
Never.
But it seems a little bit disrespectful and
well, Daren, you don't need it. And for me, telling you don't need it, I know all about you. Yeah. I know what you're thinking. I know what you experience also. And so I therefore have authority. And that's the biggest, I can tell you don't need it.
And I was telling Holly this as well yesterday. To me, that's a bigger threat. I've never liked police officers, you know, those police officers. The majority of the run-ins I've had with police officers weren't pleasant. But I'll still say the biggest danger to me in today's society is other constituents who want to take my rights away.
Yeah, so ignorant
other citizens that want to give my rights away and say, you don't need those rights.
Well, you know, and I'm sorry, guys, for us talking about this. It's a little frustrating because we know that all we would like to do is live. And we've been harassed by people, berated by people for being individuals who just want to be free. That's all it is. We want to be free. I've been called a murderer.
Yeah.
I've been called a murderer.
Makes no sense.
And it's only because of the rhetoric. Now, back to the rhetoric. I apologize because we moved to such a politically charged conversation that, you know, I don't think we even intended to do that. I know. It just happens.
I mean, it's related.
But you know what's about to happen, though? This is what's going to happen. George Floyd's name will be forgotten.
Yeah.
This is going to sound harsh, guys, but for those who dwell in the call and response world, George Floyd's name will be forgotten. Ahmaud Arbery's name will be forgotten. The TV will tell you to be outraged about something else.
Yep. Yeah.
they will point you to an enemy that's standing in your way, and your outrage will go towards that enemy. Now, the reality of why a George Floyd is dead, the reality for why an Ahmaud Arbery is dead, that reality will remain. And the people who live in that reality would like to protect themselves. Right. Some of them.
Right. Yeah.
Some of those people that who may or may not be on this podcast speaking on a mic. May or may not be. Right. Some of them would like to. And by protect ourselves, meaning our families.
And people we love.
And people about. We love. Because here's a reality. And I don't want to sound flippant at all. I don't want to sound facetious. I have a hard time thinking I would record something like that on my phone.
Yeah.
I have a hard time thinking that if that happens in front of my face, the first thing I pull out is my phone.
Right. No. Which you might get shot for anyway.
Right.
So you might as well pull out something that can do something.
Let me tell you something. Self-defense is just a taboo subject today.
Yeah.
You know? But my God, I vow not to let as far as my power can go, my family or anyone I love become a hashtag.
Right.
It's just, it makes me sick. So there's some interesting aspects about this entire thing that I want to make sure we touch on. You know what I mean? Because there's the subletter, what's it called? Subtitles. They're the subtitles of this main event. The main event is extremely important because it's a tragedy, and not only is it a tragedy, it is a tragedy that has the genetics of its historical siblings all throughout this country. So, but there are some things while we're paying attention to the main title. What is it called? Headline.
Headline.
There you go. There are some subtitles that are also significant, and we need to be paying attention to. And I'll get to that, but I think you just sent me. Fix that. Fix your screen toward you. Your cam behind you.
Oh.
You just sent me this video in Baltimore.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There's this video. I guess people are rioting.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a one-on-one moment with a police officer and a woman who's expressing her grievances towards the cop. And then he grabs her to try to get her away. She doesn't like the fact that he grabbed him. Am I right so far? She doesn't like the fact that he grabbed her, and she slaps him in the face. I mean, it's a woman. Yeah. So
I think she punched him, but
she punched him? Okay. Yeah, she punches him in the face. He eats it. He kind of like rubs his face. Like kind of like a so she went there. She she
looked like his eyes are water a little bit.
All right, that's not we don't funny. Condone that.
That's not
we
funny.
do not condone that.
It's not
and I'm not even joking right now. We do not condone this.
Yeah.
Even when we talk about self-defense, it's actually self-defense.
Right.
I'm talking
not
about
retaliation.
Yeah. The one thing I did, the first thing I did with my first self-defense tool.
What?
This not for them. For them, I prayed that I'd never have to use it.
Yeah.
I'd never have to use it. So back to the story. So yeah, she punches him. He eats it. She punches him again. This is a woman.
Right.
I want to say maybe at least mid 40s.
Yeah.
Now, another police officer who's at least 6'3" comes from behind this woman and knocks her clean out. Clean out.
The same thing I would say that this is in Baltimore right now, but same thing Ray Rice should have gone to jail for.
Yeah.
This police officer did to a woman.
So many things. I can't even get these words out of my mouth right now.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to finish that video.
Yeah.
But not only did you feel the need to knock this woman out, because it's 3 of you there. It's 3 cops in this video. And this one woman. You can. Sorry, I was blowing a fan. If you heard in the mic, I'm hot.
Dude.
If you can restrain her.
Well, that's what they're
obviously
trained to do.
That's what they're trained to do.
Even if you wanted to use a non-lethal pepper spray, taser,
right.
that's when you want to use that.
You can do any of these things.
That's when you want to use that.
Now, well, I'll get to that. But not only does he feel the need to knock this woman out, he felt the need to sucker punch her.
Yeah, from behind. She didn't see it coming.
We got words for dudes like you.
Yeah.
Good grief. What in the world? And this is the issue we're talking about. And so you were saying like people were coming back like, I mean, she shouldn't have hit Joe. I mean, she shouldn't have hit him.
Right.
She shouldn't have hit him. And then this is when the conversation changes because he decided to wear a badge.
Right. One of them has the responsibility to de-escalate the situation.
One of them is held in higher regard to be disciplined.
One of them is trained.
Yeah.
One of them has so many weapons at his disposal.
Yeah.
To de-escalate the situation.
Yeah. And they are also trained because they can quickly end a life. The one with the power to end a life is the one who has and is required to have the most discipline.
Well, Peter Parker's, Uncle Ben said it best.
Don't do it, yo. Come on.
Uncle Ben said it the best, man.
No, we're past that.
Uncle Ben said it best.
We're past that, Spider-Man.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Anyway.
It's true, though.
Yeah, I know. It is true.
It's true.
It is true.
Being a gun owner comes with great responsibility.
Yeah, great responsibility.
When you're a police officer, you're not only just a gun owner, but it's your job to protect people. Mm-hmm. Taking their life or harming them is a last resort.
Yeah.
That's something that you shouldn't want to do.
Now, is there, so I haven't researched the George Floyd scenario visually. Like I haven't sought out any more videos or anything else because I can't really, I'm at a place now where I can't really take that. I can't handle it. But, they said, is there anything confirming or denying whether or not he was resisting arrest? Because
there's a video of him getting arrested. Mm-hmm. He's like walking away from the officer a little bit. The officer already has him cuffed in this video, but he's like, or at least he's cuffing him. He's allowing him to put his hands behind his back, but he keeps like turning around. It looks like in the video he's talking to him like, "What are you arresting me for?" Something like that. Like he's like looking back, like, "What did I do?"
Right.
And so he's in the video he's cuffed. And the officer sits him down up against the wall, and then before you know it, he walks him over to his car, and then he's on his face.
Yeah.
So he wasn't ever fighting this. He was never fighting the officer.
It's killed. Now here's the thing.
And what we didn't see were the other three officers that were also on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Eric Garner. Actually, Eric
Garner. It seems like, it seems almost as if they want to make it look like he is resisting arrest so that they can be justified.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
It's like,
and this is why it's dangerous. I think we should go ahead and get into storytelling mode now. I mean, we should get into story time because the only reason it is important. Oh, I didn't even finish the Ahmaud Arbery thing, but this wraps in. I'm so glad that Daddy taught us how to articulate ourselves with our rights. I'm watching the Ahmaud Arbery video and I was getting angry for him because he couldn't articulate his frustration legally.
Right.
He could tell the cops that he's pissed off, but all that's going to do to a cop is get the cop, who's also an idiot, riled up, and then he's going to end up dead somewhere.
Right.
Now, thank God that one of those cops were level-headed. Mm-hmm. Because the second one showed up and he was ready for business.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was ready for business. But the cop on site, I applaud you, thank you for being level-headed, even though after you ask your questions, you can go ahead bop, you can bop, baby. You can get up out of here.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is ask this simple question: am I being detained? Mm-hmm. If the answer is no, have a nice day.
Right. Then I'm free to go.
I'm free to go. Have a nice day. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to answer any more of your questions.
Right. If
you have any other questions, you need to bring me paper that says you have to ask me these questions.
Right. And from that point on, if a police officer still decides to violate your rights,
harass,
let them.
Yeah, let them.
And
get it on camera.
Sue them.
Yeah, and get it on camera.
Right.
Get it on camera.
Don't fight them.
Yeah, because this is what happens. I've been in plenty scenarios where nothing is going wrong.
Yeah.
and the cop approaches me trying to get me riled up.
Yeah.
Trying to get me riled up so that I either say something sideways that they can respond to. Even if I say something, you know, I was much different when I was younger. I was much different when I was younger. And the Lord has definitely spared me from some different scenarios, but it's not illegal to disrespect you, dog.
No.
You're here to enforce legalities. It's not illegal to disrespect you. It is not illegal for your feelings to be hurt.
Right.
That's not illegal. And so what happens is you say something that they don't like. They tell you to stop. And from that moment on, if you don't do what they say, you're resisting.
Right. Yeah.
And you can end up dead from such an encounter.
Something as simple as a tail light was out.
Tail light was out. Traffic stop. Standing on a corner. It doesn't matter. You can end up dead if a police officer decides they want to flex their muscle. And it's pretty sickening. It's very sickening that we allow this to happen.
And I want to be clear. This is just my experience. The police officers that I've come in contact with were not all white.
Oh no! Well, the dude that knocked the woman out, the cop in Baltimore that knocked the woman out wasn't a white dude.
Yeah. So I would say the most disrespected I've been by a police officer is a white female police officer.
For me, it's been
it was also a Latina female officer. A lot of the women officers, they approach you with extra zeal because they feel like they got something to prove.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. Then I've had some, black officers who approach you with like the homeboy approach, like, "Hey, look, man, I know what you're doing. Just let me know, let me know what you're doing. Like, we can get you out of here." And you tell them, "I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I don't want to be here all day, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be here all day." Like, exactly. What do you want me to say?
No, you can roll out.
You want me to admit to you that I'm smoking weed?
Yeah,
I'm not.
I'm not. Yeah,
come on, man.
Here.
I smell it, man. Come on, man. You ain't got to lie to me, bro. So I can get the dogs in here, or we can
go get the dogs.
What? I'm not deceiving you.
Yeah, I know.
What do you want me to say?
So we religiously in high school. We used to religiously go to Applebee's, and we had to get there.
Applebee's, yuck.
Oh, come on. Come on.
High school.
What we talking about? Golly.
Goodness.
Jeez.
I hate Applebee's.
Talking about 15 years ago.
McDonald's.
Sheesh.
I love McDonald's.
I was about to say, you just ate McDonald's. You good grief.
Listen, sometimes you got a McGriddle.
So we used to go to Applebee's. It was a bunch of us, and get the half off appetizers, and then we would go shoot pool. And this was the good days of shooting pool when you could smoke indoors. Everybody had a Black and Mild.
Disgusting.
Trash.
It's worse than McDonald's.
It is bad. I'm so disgraceful. But yeah, so we would go shoot pool. One of those times after we had shot pool, me and Steen were sitting in his red.
He had that. What was that? Toyota
Terrace? Is that what it's called?
No.
I forget what it was called.
Oh, Supra, wasn't it?
No,
it wasn't
a Supra. It wasn't a Supra. No.
What did he have?
It wasn't a Supra. But yeah, we were sitting in there because there was something that just dropped. I think it was like Eminem with that Mobb Deep joint. Shady Records. Ain't nobody better than us. Shady Records.
Oh, yeah.
I don't figure this rap out. I mapped out strategically. Timing is everything, and it seems to be the key. That one. And we were just in the car listening to it. And cops rolled up on us, banging on the window. First of all, startled us. I mean, good grief.
Yeah, I know.
You come from behind us, and then you flash the lights in your eye. I get all that because there are safety procedures. You know what I mean? They don't know. And I think Steen's car had a little tint to it. I don't know. But we weren't smoking at all. If we did smoke, we would smoke Black and Milds, but we weren't smoking at all. We were just listening to music, and they came in, tried to do the whole smoking thing.
Yeah.
Like, you guys smoking weed? Because we can smell it. It's like, well, were y'all smoking weed? Because that's the only way. That's the only way you would smell it. But that's probably one of the lighter scenarios. and run-ins with police. Because I don't even remember how that ended. We just told them we were listening to music. They were like, well, you guys can't be in the parking lot. Meanwhile, it's a pool hall.
It's public.
Yeah. But yeah, what other incident comes to mind? Do you have any? I have more than you.
I'm sure you do. You were savage. So I'm joking.
That was just.
I'm joking. I mean, it's some of the, it was ones I remember. I was in Baltimore at a gas pump, and it was wintertime. I remember that because I pumped the gas. How you put the pump into the car and you get in the car because it's too cold to stand out there, wait for the slow pump, ticking by.
I don't get in the car. I stay out there and I brave it.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Not all of us are men. It's all good though. Go ahead.
Nah, I ain't with it.
Continue.
My hands get cold. It's over. But yeah, so I get in the car and the same kind of thing happens. I hear the boom, boom, boom on my door, and my initial thought is obviously to look, and it's police officers looking at me. Whoa, let me see your hands. Like, well, okay, you knocked on my window. I thought you wanted my attention, so I'm looking to see who's at my door. And he's like, what are you doing? And I looked at him and I looked at the gas pump. And I looked back at him and I said, I'm pumping gas. He said, oh, okay. You smart, huh?
Dog.
But he was, and at that point I knew, I was like, oh, this is one of these times where
he's trying to get you.
He's trying to get me upset or he's looking for a fight. He's bored. Mm-hmm. So I just said, look, I'm not smart. I don't think I'm not smarter than you. You got to patronize him a little bit. Not smarter than you. I was just pumping my gas. There's something wrong. He's like, man, where you live? I said, I live in this neighborhood. This is my neighborhood. I didn't ask you what your neighborhood was. Where do you live? And now that they want to push your pride and your, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so the smart thing to do in a situation is to just answer the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I live near Woodlawn. I live near Woodlawn. He's like, all right, man. Well, it's 10:30. You need to get home.
Get home, Daddy? Is that you?
So many things in my mind are just like, wow, this man works for me.
Yeah.
And he's telling me what to do for no reason at all, as if I've done something wrong.
Now, there's some people who will look at that situation and say, hey, Daren, that's a cop. You better do what he says. You better do what he says now.
And if I were to say, hey, look, I'm going to pump my gas for 6 more hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here. I'm not going home because I can sit here.
Right.
I'm not breaking the law by sitting here. You know what I mean? But I would have been dead or something, or at least in jail, or pepper sprayed or tasered, something.
Who knows?
That situation would have turned in from nothing to the most.
To the most.
Simply because his pride was hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You smart.
Yeah, you smart.
You're not. I'm sitting at a gas pump and you ask me what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Pumping gas. The meter is running right now.
Dog. Going back to pool stories, there was another place on the east side called Top Hat.
I remember that place.
Yeah.
It had ping pong tables too, right?
Yeah. I was leaving from there. Actually, this is when I was dating Azania. Mm-hmm. And we were driving home. I was taking her home. She lived on the east side. That's why I would end up going that far to go to freaking pool hall. But dog, we were driving home and just vibing. I had Drew Hill playing on in the background. I mean, it's just like late night. You got to get your R&B on. I'm driving. Drew Hill's playing on the background. Then we stop at a traffic light, and this cop shows up, and matter of fact, the car in front of me stops at the traffic light and gets out the car, bangs on my window.
Was it an unmarked car?
Yeah. I didn't even know it was a cop. He gets out, bangs on my window, and I'm like, I roll the window down. You got a mother effing problem? I'm serious. I'm literally quiet like this.
Yeah.
And then I look at Azania.
You, sir, are mad.
I look at him. I'm like, sir, my girlfriend is sitting in the passenger side. Mm-hmm. We're listening to Drew Hill, and you're outside of my window yelling and cussing at me. do you have a problem? I don't,
Right. Yeah.
I don't have a. I mean, I'm driving on the street like it seems 15 other cars. If you keep following me, you're gonna effing find out. I'm like, oh, so what was he doing?
Right. Yeah.
Because he's paranoid for no reason.
Right.
You in an unmarked vehicle. The only reason I knew he was a cop because I saw his gun on his hip with his badge. Mm-hmm. And then he's driving in front of me.
Right.
We're on Perring Parkway for all you Baltimoreans here. Yeah. Perring Parkway is a long road. I'm just driving straight, and he thinks I'm following him. And it, he I guess wants me to get out and challenge him to a duel or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm 18 at this point. But dog, I think the target time for at least a black Baltimorean, I don't know how it is in other places, is 13 to about 28. Mm-hmm. Because you will fit every description in the book. Yeah. And you'll just be believed to be up to no good.
Right.
You'll be believed to be up to no good.
Right. And that's not just listen, man, this is about to be a little bit off topic. Not really though. But that's not a police thing. I remember being in middle school.
Off topic.
This is just a little bit off topic.
All right, we're gonna get there.
It's in the realm of power and authority.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that
we
too.
We were in middle school, and I remember these dudes next to me got in a fight. I got pushed in this fight. Like someone pushed the two dudes that were fighting. One guy got pushed into me, and I fell into the table. Mm-hmm. Principal comes running, and all of y'all get in my office, and tried to suspend all of us. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, naturally, our parents, because we were rare and had parents in Baltimore City, came up to the school and were like, "Why are you suspending him? What did you see him do?" They were fighting. We don't tolerate fighting. These knuckleheads, this and da 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 da. But Dad's like, you don't know your students. Yeah. Because my son isn't a knucklehead.
Right.
You've assumed that he's a knucklehead because why?
Right. Yeah. Automatically.
Yeah. And so I go to this school in Baltimore City. I'm in the classroom with knuckleheads, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. So I must be one of them.
Right.
I must behave like them.
Easily dismissed.
I must not have a respect for him as a principal. Mm-hmm. So he must treat me lesser than human.
Even something as simple as going to the bathroom. If you go into the bathroom, where you going?
Right.
Where you going? Going to the bathroom.
Like a person.
Yeah. Like, what? I don't get why
man. A little bit of authority goes a long way. At me. And give that principal a gun and a badge.
Ooh, sheesh.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. You ever had a boss that just talks to you any kind of way?
And you know what, though? Yeah, dog. I mean, I'm sure black.
A manager, a supervisor.
Yeah, they just treat you however they want.
Any kind of authority.
And let me dispel this myth now, because there's something connected to what Daren just said. And this might sound outlandish, but what Daren just said connects all the way back to the beginning propaganda against black people in this country with Birth of a Nation, where the whole point of that movie was to give justification to whatever means the Ku Klux Klan used to detain or punish black people. Because in this film, black people are shown to be murderous and big, beastly looking rapists who are snatching up your precious women and children.
Yeah.
And so now you've created this need for something to be eradicated or to be done with. Sort of the way gun owners are shown today. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at that. Mm-hmm. But there's this need for you to get rid of these people.
Yeah.
And so now you see a black face, especially a black male, and you're primed to be up to no good.
Right.
You're primed for it. Obviously, it doesn't dismiss those who are up to no good, but the whole up to no goodness isn't what's the word I'm looking for? Discriminatory. Mm-hmm. There are a bunch of types of people who can be up to no good. Mm-hmm. And so now, even in the schools where we went to all black schools, especially before middle school. Well, yeah, mine was more diverse. High school was more diverse than Woodlawn, I think. Was it?
You said
probably. My high school was more diverse than yours, I think.
And what? As far as what?
Ethnicity.
I don't no, Woodlawn's pretty diverse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty diverse.
Oh, okay.
In another way, so we had like a lot of we had a large like Muslim community and Spanish community at Woodlawn.
Oh, okay.
Maybe there was a few white people, but mostly a lot of Muslim and Spanish. Our soccer team was not American. None of them were.
Yeah, well,
They went to the state championship and
testament.
won every year.
That's how it works. That's how the USA gonna be, except for the women. Women are only winners in USA.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, we went to all black schools. Meanwhile, you had teachers that would look at you as a troublemaker. A troublemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't a troublemaker, I got stories about this too. Then they parade you around to help get money for the school.
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
So we have issues, no matter what. Issues. But that's not where I was going though. Like I was about to say something. Oh, another story. Another story time. Story time with Brandon. So how many years did mommy have this white Quest? The van?
How many years?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
A long time.
A long time until it broke down.
I mean, is it safe to say
10?
Yeah, 10 years.
At least.
How many years was there a Ravens tag on the front of it?
Soon as she got it.
Soon as she got it. The entire time. Meanwhile, if you stick Brandon behind a Ravens embellished white Quest, then he alerts the police. And this is mommy's fault. Mommy, I blame you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't blame you.
Mm-hmm.
But she wanted chicken. I won't forget it. She wanted chicken from Mr. G's. Route 40. And I was driving to go get the chicken to put in the order. I went to go pick it up. I drove by a cop, and he immediately pulled out. Yeah. And so I did my thing. I pulled over. He asked me, do you have any, I hate that question. Do you have any reason why I stopped you?
Did you know? Yeah.
You know, I mean, sometimes I have to.
I love guessing games.
Yeah, I know. I'll just answer yes. Well, then what is it? Why did I stop you? Like, aren't you the one that stopped me?
Yeah, I know. Why should I know why you stopped me? You want me to admit to a crime before you even acknowledge?
Is this a stop and exam or what?
Right.
I mean, what in the world? But all right, I digress.
I know, man.
So I'm like, well, yes, I do know why. I typically don't answer because if I give my answer, they won't admit to it. It's because you think I'm suspicious, and the only reason you have to believe I'm suspicious is because of my demographic.
Right.
And so there are racial undertones with you, and I think that there are some areas of your heart that you probably need to look into. They're never going to be like, bing, 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 you got it, man.
Right.
That's exactly why I stopped you. No. So yes is the answer. And then if you want to know why, you keep asking, then it's on you.
Yeah.
However, so he continues to go back. He says, yeah, well, you're driving without a light front license plate. I said, I have a license plate on the back.
Mm-hmm.
He says, well, it's illegal to have only one license plate in Maryland. Now, I'm looking at cars that are manufactured without license plates in the front.
That's very not true. That's so not
now,
true.
The next thing I know, he goes back to his car. He does his thing. Then he comes up to my car. My window is down. Once upon a time when I was younger, I used to roll my window all the way down for cops. Now what I do is if a cop pulls up and I'm not in a tinted car, which I typically am not now, if I'm not in a tinted car, then I crack that sucker just a little bit. And if they say, can you roll the window down a little bit more? I'll say, what'd you say? Can you roll the window down? No, it seems like you can hear me very well. I'm going to leave it like this.
Right.
You don't need access to me.
Right.
We just need to be able to hear each other. So my window was all the way down. He comes back to the car, and he immediately reaches into the car over me to the ignition and begins to snatch the keys out of the ignition. My immediate reaction was to grab for his arm, and I immediately saw me on Channel 13 WJZ that night. So I stopped, but I'm like, dog, what are you doing?
Right.
There's a warrant out for your arrest. So they did the whole thing. They arrested me. They locked me up. And I'm like, this is so wild. Meanwhile, I just don't understand this. So I was like, look. My mother ordered some food.
Right. Can y'all get
There's something that needs to actually happen about this, though. I mean, because can I at least call her real quick? So he grabbed my phone from the car. I'm sitting in the back with the cuffs on. He grabs it. I'm like, Ma, I'm getting locked up. I don't know why, but you know why.
You know my mother. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
Lord.
goodness. So that's all. They took the phone away from me after that. They took it away from my face. And so they take me down to the station. I'm in Catonsville. They took me. Oh yeah, because I was at Mr. G's.
Yeah.
So they took me to Catonsville. Dog, I'm not lying to you. I am not lying to you. When I walked into that station, there was a group of cops huddled around a desk watching cops. I'm not even lying. I could not believe my eyes.
Come on, man.
They were watching cops.
Infatuated with that stuff.
Like, what in the world?
With their job.
And it made me sick because I had my favorite Morgan hoodie, and they cut the strings out of it. And so put me in a cell. All this time, I still don't know what I did, and I don't know what my warrant is for. And obviously, they would never tell me.
No,
they're not gonna tell me. And there was some funny stories because you're locked in a cell with like 10 other dudes, one little toilet in the corner. You know what I mean? So it's nasty. It's nasty. One dude said that he was in there. He had just gotten out on bail, serving 3 years for Grand Theft Auto. He got out, didn't have a way home, went across the street from the station to try to steal a car, and he got caught.
What?
And so he's right back in there with us. I'm like, man, yeah, you need guidance. You need guidance.
Goodness
That's what's wrong
gracious.
with you. So, I finally get out, and they walk you upstairs, and they like tell you to, don't make any eye contact with any people out there, or don't make any messages. And typically that's going to be for like gang, affiliation, right? So that you can't get walked out to the office to talk with the judge, and then you can't communicate anything to the outside to make any illegalities happen. Obviously, I wasn't going to follow about that because Daddy was sitting out there. Pastor Tim was sitting out there. Release your heart. And as soon as I walked outside, they saw me, and I looked over to them, and I was like, all I need is a rap album now. And I made it. I made it. So it turns out that a warrant was out for my arrest because I had unpaid light rail tickets.
$4.50.
It's not even that.
$2.50.
Something like that.
Well, how much is it now?
$3. I don't know. I
They
haven't called the light
probably
rail in a
like
long
charge
time.
$10 now.
Now, here's the thing. Once I finally got released, the next day, I went to go take care of these outstanding fees. And they proceeded to tell me I had no such fees.
Sounds about right.
Just a Thursday.
Sounds about right.
It's just a Thursday. Have mercy. Good grief.
Yeah. One thing that before we end this, we're almost at an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Before we end this, the one thing that I want to just kind of to wrap it up is, what can we do? Everyone wants change. Everyone wants this abrupt change in this, it's going to take a change in mentality. It's going to have to take a change in approach, change in empathy, sympathy, understanding one another. And this is for everyone. The first one I'm going to say is for everybody. The first thing we can do to affect change is to educate yourself on the rights you have as a sovereign citizen in this country. Recognize that it is true that there are rights given to you by our Creator.
Right.
That police officers, that the government can't touch, no matter how much it frustrates them that you have these rights.
Yeah. Unless you give it away.
Unless you give it away, you have them.
One quick caveat. The importance of that wording, endowed by your Creator, it's important because it doesn't even matter who you believe your Creator to be.
Right, exactly.
The fact of the matter is it ain't them.
Right.
That's the point that's being made in that letter.
Right.
And so they don't have jurisdiction or authority to remove it. None of those rights are privileges because they require no permission.
Right. And if for some reason you disagree with us,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have the right. You shouldn't. listen to people who have done the work and educated themselves and said, no, I do.
Yeah.
And leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because as fellow free people, you might not like the freedoms that other people may have.
That's fine.
But they have them.
Yeah, that's fine.
They have them.
And if you do something to forfeit those freedoms, then they get forfeited.
They get forfeited. Yeah, that's it.
But just because you don't like something does not mean you get to strip someone of their rights, because then, and I'm going to make this very explicit on purpose, it's your knee on the necks of people.
Right. Exactly.
You have no idea the connection to that. If we are outcrying for justice and righteousness on behalf of people, then it must be all forms, even if we are complicit in the preliminary stripping of rights,
right,
to ensure that someone who maybe can't articulate their rights gets taken advantage of.
Right.
And that's a conversation that needs to be had. And if you're someone who's very ignorant about the life of someone and their relationship with authority and everything else, start having conversations.
Right. If you listen to this and you're going, oh, that sounds crazy, I can't believe they went through this kind of stuff. So, well, believe it. It happened, and recognize that those are the types of things that shape our worldview. These are the types of things that have drawn us to being conservatives, drawn us to being to having the principles that we have. That these are the types of things that have made us the believers that we are, experiencing these kinds of evil and seeing it in all forms, not just police officers.
All right, what if we went 10 more minutes? Is that feasible?
I mean, yeah, we're still at 50.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, because I want to touch on this because this is one of the subtitles, the riots happening.
Oh, right. We didn't talk about the riot.
We didn't, but I don't think that we would fill an entire part two episode with this. So there are riots happening right now. Now,
all over the country.
An aspect of riots are a form of grieving. I'm not saying I agree with the form, but it is a form. If we want to be sympathizers or empathizers, then we have to first meet people in common place, in common ground. Common ground is we all grieve. If you disagree with the way people grieve, then wait for a second before you jump to that
real
part.
quick. I want to say something I thought was pretty funny. Martin Luther King Jr. III, who was still alive, posted a quote from his father saying, the quote that MLK said, rioting is a cry of the unheard, essentially.
Yeah.
And people were like, listen, I know that's your father and everything, but I disagree. He never would have. You're taking it out of context. correcting him. Like, isn't that crazy?
His father's words. History. All you got to do is let time pass, and everybody's stupid.
Man, the internet makes people
everybody's stupid.
This is his father.
Yo, stupid.
Finally got this, like, oh, these idiots.
Yeah. But no. So now the reason I'm talking about the rioting is because there are some aspects of riots that we need to look at carefully. I pointed out the fact that it's one form of grieving, that there are people out there grieving. But when you have boots on the ground, when you are there, you begin to hear some things that are a little questionable. And I remember when Freddie Gray was murdered.
Right, in Baltimore.
And there was something that was not being shown on mainstream news. And it was the questions that people in Baltimore had regarding these riots. Because what was happening in Baltimore was peaceful protest.
Yeah. Specifically, there were these gangs who actually were on the news. Like, hey, look, they trying to say it's us out here doing this.
Yeah, and they weren't.
These are the dudes we beef with.
Yeah.
They right next to us. We're not doing
We're not even doing it.
It's somebody else out there. We don't know them. They're not from here.
Now, before you think that this is outlandish, which I don't even know if I've said enough for Pullman to get where I'm going with this, but there is something that we know exists, and it's called Operation Counterintelligence Provoke or something like that. I don't know. COINTELPRO is the short name for it. And COINTELPRO is generally the inciting of opposition towards a specific cause. We saw it with the Black Panthers, where the Black Panther Party was infiltrated to turn people against them. We saw it with Dr. Martin Luther King. That existed then, and this involved the government. And most recently, we saw it during these riots. Before what I'm talking about today. Most recently, before these riots today, we saw it with the Freddie Gray murder and the riots that ensued, where people were saying these people are coming from out of town,
right? Yeah,
and they're tearing the place up, and it's not us,
yeah,
because before the news can tell you that all black people are so broken and hurt that they're going to destroy their own community, that's not always the case.
No,
as a matter of fact, black people will protect their community.
They will. That's also not on the news.
That's not on the news. Black people will protect their community. And there are people who are taking advantage of this moment. Our good friend Rahm Emanuel never let tragedy go to waste. Never let a tragedy go to waste. And there are people who are starting to document this stuff. There's a video. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Let me play it.
Go get everything you can find. These are the boys right here. This is the team. There's more stuff that we can put out here. Hey, there's 3 picnic tables up here. There's a couple picnic tables up here. Let's go on. Come on, y'all.
So I don't know if you heard that, but that faint voice amidst all the chaos going on there is this white guy who's wearing all black. And this is a video being recorded on Instagram. It's a white guy wearing all black, and he's giving people money.
To evangelize.
And he's giving people money. He's pointing them to things to go and destroy. You hear him at the end say, hey, there's a couple of picnic tables right there. You can go get that. I'll try to remember to post those links, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard. Maybe on Instagram.
Yeah. I'll repost them on our Instagram. So look at our Instagram, and I'll post them. I want to play one more. Here's another one. I think. Here's another one. Here we go.
I can't believe that. Now they circling. See, then look. I want you to know this is not. Don't police people's way. Let me tell
There's
you
a woman
this
spray
is
painting
not
a building with Black Lives Matter.
Who's putting Black Lives Matter? I just want you to know that right, but y'all doing that for us, and we ain't asked you to do that. Listen,
wearing all black again.
Don't spray stuff on here when they gonna blame black people for this, and black people didn't do it. There's a black person. But if we wanted you to do it, we would have asked. They not gonna show y'all faces when they see that on their building. They gonna blame that on us. Y'all are part of the problem. News come on, they gonna say we did that. We didn't do that. Stuff like this ain't right.
So what was happening there was there were two women,
non-black.
I don't know what they had on masks. They either looked like Latina or of Middle Eastern descent. I don't know. Wearing all black, and they're spray painting a Starbucks with letters like BLM, Black Lives Matter, and then another one that said down with something. I forget.
Yeah.
And the grievance of this woman that you hear in the video is like, we hip to the game.
Right.
We're familiar with you coming from out of town to our community, tearing stuff up, and then the news will say this is what we're doing to our community.
Right.
Why on earth would this be happening?
Right.
That's not helping us.
And it's not new, dog.
Nah.
If this is something that's new to you, don't be ashamed. Stop wasting time being ashamed. Don't listen to voices that try to shame you from being a newbie and not being hip to the experience. We're in this together. I'll share with you the experience. You promised me to do the work to catch up. That's all that is. Understand. This is not new. And so this power structure and authority issue we see that was carried out in Ahmaud Arbery's thing, carried out in George Floyd's thing, has been carried out for centuries.
Right.
It's still the same narrative. And what's going to happen after all of this, when you forget George's name and you forget Ahmaud's name, is you'll be pointed to another suspect to hate. And it just might be a suspect who's actually a teammate.
Right.
If we wanted you to do it, we would have asked.
Think well.
They're not gonna show y'all faces
Pay
when they see
attention.
that on their building.
A lot of us
They gonna
love,
blame
I
that
know
on
my
us.
wife does. She
Y'all
loves
part
the
of the
Divergent
problem.
series, not as much as the Hunger Games series. And, you've seen those movies, Divergent, especially, they have like 5 or 6 different factions and each of them are gifted in different ways. And because they're gifted and separated in different ways, they're kind of pinned against one another in a lot of ways. Each one of them, because they have a different skill, they're not to associate themselves with other people in these other factions. And they're taught to hate one another because they're all in different factions. And, what ends up happening in the trilogy, to give it away, is that all of them are under an experiment.
Spoiler alert.
There is one government putting all 5 groups under the same experiment. They all have a different experience in this experiment, but they're all under the same experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wow. That's profound, Darren.
I mean, listen,
Golly.
this is what I do.
That's crazy. You know what I mean? We've talked about that movie before.
Yeah.
I've never heard that perspective, though.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I mean, for an idiot, that's good.
Okay.
But, on a serious note, this is stuff that our experiences have taken us to understand and seek out. And it's not that we're trying to seek out an answer. We're trying to seek out why. That's seeking out an answer. But it's not like we're trying to seek out that specific thing. Like, let's try to find something to pin on the government. We're just trying to figure out, like, why does this stuff happen?
Right.
And there are voices that are unheard in these narratives.
Right.
Start paying attention to the voices that are unheard. You think the grand narrative is that the black voice is unheard? There are black voices even within that narrative that are unheard.
Right.
The only black voices that will be heard on mainstream news are heard on purpose.
Right.
Ask yourself the question, why are these the only ones heard? Ask yourself that question. There are people infiltrating riots to incite more violence. Why on earth would they be doing that? Look up COINTELPRO. Look up its history. Look up its involvement. All the things that are unclassified in today are always unclassified with this existed from this time period. Don't be fooled. These things still exist. These things still exist. And before concluding on anything, just think well and ask good questions.
Yeah.
Think well and ask good questions. Did you finish all of your things? Because you were talking about one was for everybody that you think we should learn.
Yeah, we ended up covering it.
Oh,
we ended
okay.
up covering it, like you just said. You said it earlier.
Yeah.
We'll live the experience. Just be willing to listen.
Yeah. Be
And
willing to listen. Be willing
to catch up.
I don't know if we talked about this, but if you are a non-black person, be very mindful of the way you talk to a black person.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that
Briefly.
but just be very careful the way you talk. I'm not talking about walking on eggshells, but there is a tendency to belittle and be condescending.
Yeah.
Be condescending with your tone. And a black person won't find that to be surprising, but the reason they'll think it's happening is because they don't have any value to you.
Right.
And so if you talk to someone any old way, that I think the foundational aspect of that is lack of respect for that person.
Right.
And I think that the muscle flexes we see from government, I think it happens to absolutely everyone.
Everybody.
Or maybe we should say anyone.
It can happen to anyone.
Any type of person. Not everybody does this, but it can happen to any person, whether you have a badge or you got on an apron serving fries.
Right.
You feel like you have authority over someone and you begin to start treating them a certain way. That's a human issue.
Right.
That's a human issue. I think it's time for a lot of people to start asking a question of what's the answer to the human issue. I think a lot of people have their eyes open to the answer to the racial issue. It's just a matter of getting it done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can get our hands together and end racism, right? Isn't that possible? Or will we begin to dig up more human issues?
Right.
So let's keep fighting well. Let's keep thinking well. But it's time to start asking bigger questions. That's all I got. You do it. Hopefully, prayerfully, next week, we will have our episode and our take on the Michael Jordan documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, what is it called? I forgot.
The Jordan Effect.
Nah, what's the thing called?
Oh, the documentary?
Yeah.
Something about game.
Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
Last Dance. You're an idiot. Yeah, we'll have our next episode is on MJ. And you know what happens if two Baltimoreans start talking about sports and we ain't got no basketball team. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we're going to talk a little bit about Jordan, but then we're also just going to talk about a little bit about our fanhood and our love for Baltimore and through sports. So tune in. If you have any comments on this episode, drop a comment. Go to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Go to the website and subscribe. I think you can get notified or whatever your platform is. Go to iTunes and leave a rating. Yeah, leave a comment and a rating.
It doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Just do it. And give us a high rating. Because once it gets a high rating, or the more high ratings we get, the more visible the podcast becomes.
Right.
So we want more people to be introduced to the Black Believing Brothers from Baltimore, on Black and Blurred. I didn't even do that on purpose. Alliteration, but I didn't know. I didn't. Just give me credit, though. I'm just saying. Give me credit. We'll see y'all back here on Black and Blurred, where we do one of two things. We either share with you our humble opinion
or give you the facts.